Hello, everybody. This is Stan Fitzgerald with Veterans for America First and our new media wing, the Vet Voice. I'm here with my friend Tommy Vext. He is a recording artist and a big supporter of veterans and police, as well as Republicans, including President Trump, who a few years back he endorsed. Tommy, for those that don't know you, you want to give a little of the backdrop story there with what happened after you endorsed the president?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, so for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm the former lead singer and founder of the band Bad Wolves. I've been in recovery for 13 years. I was a sober coach for a few celebrities. I actually helped Justin Bieber get sober, among other people. And then when Five Finger Death Punch's singer had to go to rehab, they enlisted me to fill in for him for their 2017 European tour. Subsequently, I got a record deal with their record label, Better Noise Music. Then I put out a song called Zombie, which was a cover of the Cranberries song that was meant to be a duet with Dolores. And tragically, she died the day before she went into the studio. So we went on a big campaign raising money, and then we donated all the proceeds from the song sales to her kids. So I'm in this band. It's 2020. I've done probably about 14 arena tours at this point. I've sold millions of records, billions of streams, billions of views on YouTube and music videos, whatever. So you could say that we were successful, right? We were Billboard's #1 artist 3 years in a row in sales. So things were going great, and then we went into lockdown. And I come from a military family. My father served in Vietnam. My uncle and my godfather, they all fought in Vietnam. My cousin Thomas fought in Desert Storm. My cousin Mike is still active duty in the Navy. He's a captain now. And then also I grew up with a lot of firefighters and police officers. So my grandfather was a New York City undercover detective, and he also fought in World War II. And I have other friends who became, my best friend Justin became a fire captain in New York City. And, and I'm from New York City. So, I grew up, I'm going to turn the stove off real quick. So I grew up, speaking of firefighters, I don't want to burn my house down. So I grew up in the kind of working class, and below parts of Brooklyn and New York where, this is, people didn't really have all the stuff that the media is talking about, right? So there's been so much, I feel like the police really got attacked for the past couple of years, and law enforcement, without statistical evidence or understanding what was going on. And I think that there's multiple issues with, what the media did. And I've been very outspoken about how the media has portrayed law enforcement. And I've said publicly on stage, and it's a difference between the internet. I'll say something in public, you know what I mean, in front of 10,000 people, because they can't shut me up. And people didn't like that. And, and then I also was very critical of the BLM movement, because I did some research early on, and I was one of the first African-American artists to expose that the corporation BLM was siphoning all the money that was being donated and putting it into their corporation, which was called Act Blue, which they were using that money to push Joe Biden's campaign. So when I exposed this, it was like a whole other, all the, I was living in LA at the time, and all the, Hollywood just came after me, and they're like conspiracy theory, they say all the things, and then turns out everything with time, it's Donald Trump Jr., we were at the shooting range a couple months ago, and he said the only thing difference between a conspiracy and the truth is 6 months now. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, so just things like that were going on. And, and people just started to suspect that I was a Trumper. And, I think I grew up in a time where my parents voted for who they thought was the best president for the country. So whereas like my father voted for Ronald Reagan, who was Republican also voted for Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat. And we never had a time in this country since the Civil War where it was so, I think, divided, with these with this false ideological bullshit. And it was actually pretty intense to talk to people who didn't understand the Civil War and didn't understand world history, and especially the fact that the Democratic Party have consistently been the party that wanted to keep slavery. They fought on the Confederacy side to keep slavery. They fought for the Jim Crow law. They didn't want black people to have the right to vote. They started the Ku Klux Klan, and all of a sudden, the Republicans, who Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and like all the people who fought for, they basically just tried to co-opt all the things that the Republican Party had done over the course of its the party's existence, and be like, oh, it just switched. I'm like, but there was no event that switched it. It's just like the real pieces of shit got wind and decided they were going to manipulate everybody, and then they got control of media, and so they just manipulate people's perspectives so you don't know who's who, and they confuse you. So anyway, then I voted for Trump, and then I talked about it, and it was like the end of the world. It was like you could have announced that I was responsible for like a terrorist attack, and it was crazy. It was the most covered story in the music industry, in the rock music industry, and anywhere in the world. Every magazine, everything. It was just like, I remember I was renting a place in Orange County, California, because the sheriff's department wasn't ticketing or shutting down businesses. So I wound up moving to Orange County, and the lady I was renting a house from met Trump and got a MAGA hat from him when he was in Orange County, and she got two hats, and she gave me one because she knew that I was following the whole thing, and I was like, so I put the hat on. I took a picture. It got like 100,000 likes on my Instagram, and it just was the end of the world. And so probably around that time, my band devised a plan with the label to try to kick me out. And first they tried to make me sign a contract saying that I would forfeit my and this is funny because my attorney was present on this call. They wanted me to sign a contract forfeiting my First Amendment rights to talk about my political beliefs. Wow. Which there's a case for this, when it comes to constitutional law, the fact that if I would have just recorded those conversations, it would have been a nightmare. So, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I finally, I agreed to step down in exchange for all of my masters. And then after I made the agreement, they revoked the deal. They tried to steal all my music. We went to court. I crowdfunded basically about $200,000 in a week, and then went and hired a lawyer and spent the next 10 months in and out of court battles just trying to get the rights to the material that I created, because the guys in the band, were like, they spent 2020 at home, like drinking and doing cocaine, and I'm sober. So I opened the studio, and I went in the studio with my studio guitar player, and I recorded 45 songs. So, but this is the way, this is kind of the way the left is, they don't want to do the work, but they want to share in the equal, in everything to be equal, and so when they can't create or they can't provide, they steal. And they feel justified in doing so simply out of, I don't know if it's narcissism or arrogance or mental illness. Like the ideology of leftism is also starting to unravel now. Like you see what's been going on just this week with Martha's Vineyard, where DeSantis shipped 50 illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard to be like, okay, see, this is what we're dealing with. Like this is a fraction, right? They sent 50 people there, right? There's there's been, since Biden's been in office, over 1 million people have breached the borders in Arizona and Texas. So that's considerably more. So within 24 hours, they had kicked these people out, bust them out. Instead of these people who Martha's Vineyards has several billionaires. When I say several, I mean a lot, more than seven billionaires living there, that they could very easily just open their checkbooks and help these people out. And they set up a GoFundMe and they crowdfunded $40,000 to kick these people out. And they called in the National Guard and they declared it a humanitarian emergency. It's like, it's not a humanitarian emergency. You know, like if I played a concert and there was only 50 people there, I'd be like, man, this is a failure. You know what I mean? Like, there's not enough people here. It's not that many people. And then you just see on Twitter too, like all the blue check marks, and even NBC, they're talking about these people like they're garbage. They're like, oh, you're dropping your trash off in our neighborhood instead of dealing with it in your own. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, well, these are human beings, right? They're only, most of these people there's obviously criminal elements crossing the border, and I have friends who are on border patrol and they tell me all this stuff like with the trafficking, but there are legitimately people who are in their country being told to come here, right? The Dems are they're flyering and sending pamphlets out, and people like Soros and all these other douchebags are telling them to come here, so they don't know. So they're coming here, and then they get to a place like Martha's Vineyard, which they've probably never seen so much abundance in their lives, and then you just throw them away and call them trash. I'm like, it doesn't line up with any of the things that these people say, So they're all, they want the ideology of leftism has become, it's like Santa Clausism. It's like they want to believe.
I'm sorry, you got me laughing. You're right, though. Yeah.
But yeah, we all want to believe in this world where there's a fat magical man that's going to come down and bring us free presents, and you know what I mean. But as you get mature, like you realize someone has to pay for the presents, and somebody, you know what I mean, and like somebody's got to foot the bill, and somebody's got to cook the cookies and leave them out. It just doesn't magically happen. And where I think there are a lot of great ideas that the left has about humanitarianism. They don't implement any sort of infrastructure or any kind of solution-based oriented thinking in achieving it. So it's very whimsical, and it's ignorant, and then when they have to deal with it up close, they're like, oh, no, like, oh, no. Like, this is just something that I it's a feeling, but I don't want to open my door and come outside of my, of my insulated, neighborhood. And that's the thing. The people who are the poor people who are leftist are being told all this like wishy-washy, whimsical, we are the world shit. But the people who are teaching it to them and telling it to them don't give a fuck about them either. They do it because it's an emotional manipulation tactic to get people to vote for these people who are constitutionally incapable of being honest. And there are Republicans like that too. It's just with any kind of with political power, it's going to attract people who will lie in order to get power, and it doesn't serve the people.
Absolutely. And before we move on to your current projects and your music, I just want to let the viewers know that Tommy and I met in Mar-a-Lago many months ago, and we've been friends since. And President Trump acknowledges him and thanks him. And I know the Trump family and all of us in America appreciate you. But can you tell the viewers a little bit about what you have going on now?
Yeah. So again, like in October or November of 2021, I wound up settling the lawsuit. I was awarded my songs back. I got 40 of my 45 songs back, and I started releasing music as early as March of this year. And so I have you can find me on Spotify. I'm on YouTube. I have a Truth Social. I'm obviously on Instagram. My Instagram gets deleted every time I get 200,000 followers. It's like I'm on my third one. So they deleted me at 320,000. They deleted me at 200,000. Now the new one has, they keep deleting me, but then like DC Drano, a typical liberal, the Hodge twins, Trump Jr., they repost me and everyone's like, oh, there's Tommy. And they go follow me again. So it's like this game of whack-a-mole with the big tech companies, because it's like it's impossible to dismiss my stances, right? They can't call me racist, they can't call me this, they can't, they're just like, oh, and I just say, and I also say shit how it is, so you can follow me on socials. But yeah, I have like I released an album called Grand Theft Audio, because my music, it was the songs that were stolen that I got back. And we charted at #3 on iTunes in the rock genre, and we charted at 48 on Billboard overall for all genres, and #9 on. We outsold Beyonce on our opening weekend. So obviously, patriots want to hear good rock music that's pro-America, and yeah, and then and that's really that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to be off for the rest of the year, and I'm going to come back and tour sometime next year, probably in the spring. I actually had a vocal injury, so my fall tour was postponed till next year. And that's it. I'm just gonna keep pumping out content. I have one record out. I'm putting out a cover album. There's already a few songs already out. There's like 15 music videos on YouTube. And I might start a podcast. Me and Ian, you guys are probably familiar with Ian Smith from Attila. Yeah, he's one of my best friends. So we've been talking about doing a podcast together. So, there needs to just be more of a stream of conversation and commentary around stuff. I think guys like Dan Bongino do a really good job, and I think Andy Frisella is doing a fantastic job. And we just have to keep having conversations, because I think, one of the things I think that was the most upsetting about the attack on law enforcement is like the dehumanization, right? And so I firsthand have experienced the dehumanization of what Hollywood and what the media does to you. They make up stories about you. They pay people. You know what I mean? Like, I've had hit pieces where I've had to have lawyers involved, where they were like actively trying to get a bunch of people to do smear campaigns. They pay other influencers, and they pay blue check marks to go after people. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and the fact that people go along with this, and to understand, my mother is the daughter of a police officer who like lived in a household where she didn't know if her dad was going to come home. You know what I mean? Like, especially in a time when New York City was like really wild. My grandfather was working when it wasn't a safe place, and so I think that upbringing carried into me, and I understand how much, like if I get a speeding ticket, I don't bitch. I'm just like, I've got one speeding ticket in my whole life. So, but I don't complain if I'm in the wrong. And I know the protocol too. And I think more people need to talk about this. I think there's not enough education about how to deal for the public to know how to deal when they get pulled over. Like, I know if I get pulled over, the first thing I do is I roll all my windows down. I put my wallet on the dashboard, and I put my hands on the steering wheel, and I fit the description, right? Like, I'm in a heavy metal band. I'm 40. I've been in bands for 20 something years, 26 years, since I was 14 years old. So, and I know what to do. I know the protocol, and I'm not afraid of police officers because I haven't done anything wrong, and I don't believe the media. So therefore there are no, I don't have those interactions because of information and education. Right. When I also worked as a bodyguard, and I worked in nightclubs when I was younger. That was my night job as a bouncer, and I worked with cops, and they taught us what, we had, when you understand that job, and you understand what they're doing and what they're going against, uh, you have a lot more empathy, right? If you believe that you're a victim and that you can't get ahead and nothing and all these people and you're oppressed and this, that, the other, your thoughts become your reality. And where there is like, I think in the conversation of systemic racism, where there are systematic parts of racism in this country, like redlining, which was done during the Nixon era, where Trump created opportunity zones. For people who don't know what redlining is that the banking infrastructure and the Nixon administration, they worked together to create zones in Black communities and in poor communities where they don't give you a loan for a business or for a home, because Nixon was racist, and it was meant to keep African Americans from overpopulating or whatever what in his mind was. And that's why he he was a bad dude. You know what I mean? He was the second worst president probably other than Joe Biden, So, but all these years have gone by, and like Obama didn't fix it. Bill Clinton didn't fix it. Trump was the guy who actually was actively trying to fix it, and he doesn't get any credit for it. And then they call him a white supremacist. And so, I think there's a problem with education, and there's a problem with facts. And social media has created these structures of like fact checkers, which is like, something's not true if we don't like it or if it doesn't align with our ideology, right? Like I saw Jack Posobiec posted a picture of Donald Trump at Ground Zero on 9/11. And it said he didn't have to go there. Nobody asked him to show up, but he did. And he brought a couple hundred workers with him, after the attack on the Twin Towers. And they said it was false information, right? And I remember probably the reason why I never believed anything that was said about him, and I started investigating when he started running the first time, is because I'm a New Yorker. I remember it. My friend's parents were down there. My neighbor died in 9/11, right? My baseball coach was a firefighter, and he died. So it mattered to us. And the next day, September 12th of this year, the video footage from the news of him being down there was there, and all of a sudden the fact check goes away. Nothing these people, nothing they say has any inkling of integrity or truth. Everything is a lie. And what's going on is, for your viewers that don't understand this, like the social media companies have deals with the left because they want to remain. They don't want to become utility companies, right? So in this country, if you have gas, electric, water, that's considered a utility. So you can't be refused services because these are main functions that you have to have to be able to have a life in this country. Social media has now become a utility because I've lost millions of dollars because of them deleting my social media. I've had tours get fucking like wrecked because they delete my social media. And they do this on purpose because they're trying to ruin my career. So you can't have a donut shop, you can't have a gym, you can't sell TVs, you can't have anything. If you don't have social media, no one knows where to find you. So if you can't have a business and you can't operate, and also personally, people date on social media. That's where people meet each other, or you go on Facebook and maybe you see your old high school sweetheart. And so if you're not allowed to have social media, you're not allowed to engage with the community. You're not allowed to have a business. You're not allowed to have a personal life. It's a utility. It has now become a functioning part, and it's being run by the Revenge of the Nerds. It's all these people who are who can't swing a hammer, and they get unfortunately what has happened with the internet is that I got picked on when I was a kid because I was fat, so I lost weight and I joined the gym, right? Because the shame of being abused at school caused me to take positive actions. We don't have that anymore. What happens is these people become very hateful and they stay the same, and then they kind of have developmental issues and this kind of derangement in the way that they view the world, and they want to punish anyone who doesn't think like them. and they think they're the victims, but they become the actual bullies that made them like this. And that's why hate is something that's a cycle that needs to be arrested. You know, that's something that has to be stopped, and that can only be stopped with conversations. You know, so and you know, so there's a lot wrong with the world right now. It doesn't just go away. You know,
You're right. I mean, this country under the new regime is really heading in a banana republic direction. And Tommy, I want to thank you for your time today and covering so many topics. And I want to encourage our veterans and first responders community to to play the whack-a-mole game and keep following him on Instagram and download his music. And we will all come see you out on your tour, my friend.
all right, I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys.
Thanks again, Tommy, and we'll talk to you again in the future.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me. Everybody take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
All right.